So we're going to do a sort of state of HBase, Apache HBase, mostly what's happened in the last year since the last HBaseCon. Usually this session traditionally is done by the chair of the project management committee, Andrew Pertel, but unfortunately Andrew can't be here today. So myself and Ennis will have a go at it. Hopefully we do him proud, our illustrious chairman. So HBase has been around for a while now. It's pretty pervasive, I think it's fair to say. It's up in the cloud. You can get on HD Insight. It's part of Amazon's Elastic MapReduce. In the keynotes, you'll hear from some of the largest applications that are running on the web. They're backed by HBase. This afternoon, there'll be more talks on very large applications. A lot of them done by the old stalwarts, the usual crew, but we have some new names there, Airbnb and even Visa. Good talks. I think one of the talks this afternoon is talking about trillion served, but I couldn't find trillion served sign to go with it. Here, Ennis, your turn.
All right. Thank you, Stack. So I want to talk about a little bit about the releases and the recent development stuff that we had done over the year. So let's start with the releases. So last HBaseCon, we've actually talked about the HBase 1.0 release and the fact that we're going to start following the semantic versioning. And this year, around this time, actually, I think we can say that the initiative has been successful so far. And we've actually delivered 10 releases of the 1.x.y form over the last year. So why it's important is, again, because HBase is getting more and more used, it's becoming pervasive. And the fact that you don't want to basically take a downtime while you're upgrading, or you don't want to unnecessarily take risk of taking in new features. So that's why having a well-defined set of rules for upgrading and defining what a release contains is important for us as well. So over those, after the 1.x release line started, we started doing the major minor patch, again, versioning mechanism. And over that, we started also doing the source and binary compatibility reports that's coming in with every release. So, for example, if you're consuming some coprocessor API, if you're consuming some client API, you can actually look at the release notes and look at the compatibility report to see whether this particular API changed, whether it will affect me or not, and then see for yourself whether you're affected. In all of the patch releases of the form 1.1.x or 1.2.x, we try to be really careful about not getting in new features. So we actually try to do so that the releases so that if you're upgrading your patch version, it should be pretty safe. And the last point I want to talk about is the fact that over 2 years ago, we actually did the what's called the singularity release. We went from the versioning of 94 to 96 and 98, and then 1.0. And this singularity release was necessary because of the fact that the RPC format changed, the wire protocol changed, everything moved from writables into protocol buffers. And we could not do a rolling upgrade manner because the whole RPC format got changed. But this singularity release, actually, we've learned our lesson in terms of the community, because most of the critical applications running on HBase did not want to take a downtime. That's why people basically delayed upgrading their releases and could not consume the bits soon enough. And we had actually many users that was stuck in the 94 releases for a very long time. So definitely the community and the developers heard the pains of upgrading from 94 releases. So going forward, all the 1.x releases have already been, again, semantic version, and it is a guarantee that from 1.x, going from 1.x to 1.x plus 1 or x plus 2 is always rolling upgradable, and the clients are always compatible in terms of the wire protocol. And we are also going to try to do the 2.0 release in a rolling upgradable manner, so that there won't be one more singularity that you would have to go through. So speaking of releases, again, since the last year, we've done a lot of releases. Over the top right corner, you can see that the number of releases that HBase has provided over the years. It is just an updated form from the last year, but as you can see, like HBase as a community and as a project has been very good in delivering releases. And if you're following the development in HBase, you can see a couple of releases a month, kind of thing. And we have 7 different release tracks that's going on, and there are frequent releases coming on from a couple of those. And I want to call out like all the work that's been done by the release managers themselves. If you're not familiar, the release managers are the persons who are driving the releases from the release lines. So we had the 1.2 release lines, whose release manager is Sean. 1.1 release lines, whose release manager is Nick. 1.0 is myself. 98 is Andrew Patel, and 94 is Lars. And going forward, there will be 1.3 release coming in very soon. Mikhail is the release manager for that. And going forward, 2.0, our Matteo would be the release manager for the 2.0 releases. If you like, most of the people of these release managers are in the audience. So if you see us around, feel free to chat up if you have any questions around what release is and whether what the release contains, whether I can upgrade this and that. And one more thing that I want to point out is that 2.0 release we are targeting for end of year. We'll see whether we can hit that goal or not. But the goal for 2.0 is having a release 2.0 before the year ends. Going forward for the development focus, so over the last year or so, there has been a couple of areas that see some developer love, and I want to talk about the most important ones. So the first area is the off-heaping work, and the fact that the garbage collection issues and the JVM issues has been causing a lot of problems over the years, and HBase as a database to be able to scale to the full machine's potentials, the off-heaping work is pretty important. So the read path has been done almost, and it's there in the 2.0 release lines as well. So if you're using an off-heap block cache, for example, the blocks are no more brought back to the on-heap space, and the copying from the off-heap space to on-heap space does not go on anymore. The write part is also coming shortly. There's active development going on in that line. Similarly, in the way of using the machine's full potentials and using the hardware a lot to the full potential, the in-memory flashes and compactions is also an area that has seen recent development. So the idea again is to use the machine's available memory both on heap and off heap for doing more write buffering and also doing better representations of the in-memory data so that you don't have to actually do the actual I/O and flash sooner than you need to. So we try to do fatter flashes and everything, which means that we would do less I/O, we would write more bigger files, and we would in turn compact much less because we are writing less and less data. Similarly, the assignment manager and master also is seeing a lot of development effort going on. This is to do with the scaling of the assignment manager and making it much more robust going forward. This is also coming into Dado. There has been a couple of new compaction policies that has been developed. This is mostly for time series applications and if you are doing like if you know that your queries are doing like time range scans, then these new compaction policies will help a lot. So there will be definitely a talk about this. Scan improvements, there has been a lot of work on that over the last year as well. Scanner chunking, scanner heart beating, and basically overall scanner improvements for using the memory better or basic heart beating, chunking have also been developed and made the scans much more better and more reliable. Spark integration is another area that is seeing some developer love. Definitely the RDD support and the data frame support is there in the code base, and it's seeing active development there. C++ client is another area that is now seeing a lot of development. There is 2 different initiatives going on to finally deliver that piece. And more asynchronous client state, the RPC client, the actual HBase client, as well as the HDFS client underneath HBase to read and write the write-ahead log files is going on. Last thing I want to touch about is about the again in the topic of pervasiveness is the HBase being used by different Hadoop ecosystem projects. This is what I call dogfooding, because the Hadoop ecosystem projects consuming HBase and making use of HBase's features is, I think, important. The first thing is the Yarn, what's called the application timeline service. So the idea here is that the application timeline service captures information about all the jobs that Yarn has run so far, including all the task information, the task attempts, whether they are failed or not, all the counters about the tasks and everything. Traditionally, this data has been in level DB, then that's put into HDFS. And now with this project, this particular data is being put into HBase, which is basically which makes this ATS data to be much more scalable, as well as you can actually query this data to run analytics on top of your Yarn jobs to see who uses what resources and what kind of jobs are most successful and so on and so forth. The second project is the Hive method store. Again, Hive method store is very critical in Hive and other databases, other ETL or MPP databases. The Hive method store now can be backed by HBase, and this helps a lot because traditionally it has always been a relational database that's storing this metadata. But in the HBase's model, it's a much less complex model. For the Hive query compilation, you don't have to do 5-way joins to come up with the partition data and everything. And as you can see, the earlier results shows that there's at least like 13x improvements in terms of the Hive query planning itself. Because fetching data from the method store is usually the bottleneck if your total query time is dominated by the query compilation time. And the last project is the Ambari metrics server. This is a standard HBase time series use case that Ambari has implemented. So this is using Phoenix for keeping the metrics data that's being emitted by the Hadoop daemons themselves. And it's kind of the case that HBase and Hadoop and Yarn and everything emits the metrics data, which is again put back into HBase to be queried later from the metrics system layer. There's also a Grafana backend for that. All right, I think that concludes my slides. I'm
Thanks, Anis.
giving stage back to Stack. Thank you.
Good stuff. It's getting hot up here. Thanks. I just want to make a shout out to new committers that were made this year. They come from all over. There's some folks from India, from China. There's even people from Mountain View. So we're like 50 committers at the moment and 27 PMC members. We're always talking about our diversity. I'll put a spotlight on it again. We have people from all over. These are the people that are running HBase. These are the people that they drive HBase forward. So we have people from Chinese, Indian, American corporations. What is 1 in 50? 1 in 50 is a shameful HBase metric. I'm bringing it up here, bringing it to all of your attention. Does anyone know what 1 in 50 is? You're very quiet this morning, lads. Thank you, Kate. Thank you. We have only one committer who's a female, which is pretty tough to admit. We have to fix this. It must be something to do, maybe it's the HBase space, or maybe it's HBase Hadoop. I'm not sure. I haven't done the metrics on Hadoop. But if I look at other, I don't think it's particular to, say, storage or distributed systems. If I look at, say, Apache Trifodian incubating, they seem to have a good female representation. It's still low, but... So let's take it upon ourselves to do something about this figure in time for next year. How about we could even do an order of magnitude and we'd still be in a not too good state. Anyway, I just want to bring it to your attention. A few slides on the health of the project. These are the user and dev mailing lists. The traffic seems to be pretty steady. No massive changes. There seems to be a natural cadence that goes with the changes of the seasons of the year. This is from the Open Hub site that does metrics on open source projects. Our commits seem to be a little bit down from last year. The number of contributors seems to be going up. That's good. A million lines of code, I think maybe half of that is generated, but we still probably have too many. An interesting note by them is the first commit was in 2007, so this time next year will be 10 years. Feels like 10 months. Yeah, we still need help. We still open more issues than we close. This is over the last year or so. So, yeah. A little chat on the ecosystem, the HBase ecosystem, especially since changes since last year. Deferred from our brothers and sisters at Cask and Omid, the Yahoo transaction manager, they both just went into Apache Incubator in the last month or so. Trifodian, they went open source at last year's conference, but now they're actually in Apache Incubator, working hard to get their 2.0 release out. S2 Graph, the graph tier that sits on top of HBase by the messaging service in Korea, Kakao, that's also in Apache Incubator. I know, help these people get out of Incubator, become top-level projects. And then just a shout-out to Phoenix. As I said, they're going to have their a PhoenixCon tomorrow morning, and Apache Kylan. And then the other projects, you'll hear from some of these later today in talks, OpenTSDB. And Splice Machine, they have some interesting things to tell you later on today. And the TIDB project from China, it's an interesting thing if you it hasn't come to your notice before this. And that's it for now. This, the future, we'll talk about the future at the end of the day when you're all here back again together in this room. That's general state of Apache HBase. Thank you.